right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash. Send double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And send much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai in sincerity and truth. Brother Ariala. And just wanted to do a response to the video that Apostle Ramlab just posted on don't be surprised if these strikes fast track automation. And over the last few days, been talking with brothers, chatting with brothers concerning these port strikes that are getting ready to start tonight. And during the election times, you're gonna have all types of news and scare tactics and stuff like that. But this go around, things have been heating up in a way that's kind of eclipsed all the previous presidential cycles. I mean, the war in Israel, the small hats are relentless right now in a way that they've never been. To the fact that they're about to do a ground invasion, and in any day now, it might coincide with these strikes on the ports, and so that's escalating rapidly. But when I was thinking about this thing about the port strikes, I was like, they'll probably come up with a deal right at the twilight of it, and then we won't hear it in the news media again. But as we gotten closer to this thing, and you listen to the president of the port union, whatever it's called, they're too serious. Now, when Apostle Ramla mentioned the automation, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Because that's really what these people are arguing about. Is basically when you look at these other ports from like China and stuff like that, they've already digitized their ports. The US is kind of like behind. And as you notice, the technology, when it comes to technology, it's like China does it and then the West kind of catches up, and that's what we see. Well, I'm gonna play this clip of this guy, to kind of bring everybody up to speed on what's going on and what's set to go down. And I want to talk about this because all of this leads to the MOTB. All of this leads to the path of the MOTB, right? When we read there in Revelation, the 13th chapter, about basically creating this digital umbrella that everything has to come into, And we read the scriptures about famine. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna read this real quick in the GNT. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 13. I'll start there. It says, the farmers will mourn because their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms. The world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring their destruction is very near. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations. We're seeing that. There will be great political turmoil, with one group trying to overpower another to gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. We're seeing that. We're seeing assassination attempts and more people talking about civil unrest and civil war if a particular candidate gets in. Very interesting, right? There will no longer be free access to the cities because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. And so famine is on the books. Famine is a part of the plagues that are set to scourge the earth. And it doesn't have to be just, there's no food. With these ports shutting down, we're talking about rapid inflation due to a supply shock. So we're talking about the price of certain goods skyrocketing in a very short period of time, and that can cause famine because you can't afford it. You just can't afford the food. It's too much. So, from international skirmishes and battles to things like this nature, it can definitely cause a famine. When we read here In Luke, the 21st chapter, we always like to read the scripture 21-25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, and the sea and the waves roaring, right? So we'd love to go in this word perplexity, right? And so you see this word.
Strong's G 640, aparia,
right? And so you get that word perplexity, but when you go into the root, apario, what does it say? Right? To be without resources, to be in straits, to be left wanting, to be embarrassed, to be in doubt, not to know which way to turn. And this is what we're gonna see, man. If these things happen, if they actually do this strike on this port, we could see some chaos. All right, it's gonna be chaotic for all these people out here. Now, for the brotherhood, it's different. The Most High has gathered us together, and we know through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, we're gonna be all right. And we're connected with one another, so we always take care of each other. That's kind of something the Most High wanted. But for these people that's just out here, they're gonna be through. Well, let me play a little bit of this clip, and then I want to get a little information that, because I was listening to Apostle Ramlab, and it made me kind of look some things up. I want to get that as well.
And a publicity stunt goes on here. The USMX filed the charge with the National Labor Relations.
Now, I got this on 1.25. If it's too fast, just somebody in the comment board let me know if it's too fast.
On Thursday, over the repeated refusal to come to the table and bargain. In response, the ILA accused the U.S. Maritime Alliance of attempting to mislead the public about their concern for longshoremen workers and their commitments to negotiations. The ILA spokesman said USMX filed these charges 4 days before the expiration of the current master contract, clearly illustrates what...
And shout out to Pashai, because I wasn't even going to touch this topic, but he kept nudging me, so I started to research, and it is pretty fascinating, So on this page, he's going through kind of like why these people are pissed off. Just listen.
But poor negotiating partners they have been. So let's take a step back and take a look at this. So both these organizations, the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents the ports, the terminals, the shipping companies on the East and Gulf Coast, and the International Longshoremen's Association, these are the 45,000 workers in ports from Boston to Houston, have a contract that's up for renewal. Now, this contract has been in place for 6 years. It's since 2018. And the 6-year contracts were put in place to prevent these kind of issues from arising. However, in the period that has transpired from 2018 to the period of 2024, what we saw was the ocean carriers, which make up the majority of the U.S. Maritime Alliance. On the board of directors, for example, 8 of the 15 seats are held by foreign shipping companies, including the Chinese Overseas Shipping Company. Those companies made record profits during the height of the supply chain crisis from 2020 to 2023, talking about billions. Daggett and the ILA want to see a substantial pay raise. The argument has been for about a 32% pay raise. Daggett and the ILA are pushing for a 70% pay raise over the span of the contract. And understand, you're going to hear a lot of figures floating out for ILA personnel. Oh, they make 6 figures, 200,000. There are different levels of ILA employees. Whatever they make, a good chunk of it, like everyone's pay, goes to taxes. But another chunk of that goes to dues for the ILA to pay for.
So during the CVID crisis, y'all remember how the ports were all backed up and shipping got all jacked up? Well, these people made all types of bread, all types of money during this period of time, and these workers really haven't seen them much of a wage increase. So they're trying to renegotiate a new contract with these shipping authorities or whatever, so they can make sure that the top guys are getting paid billions and millions. Well, they're trying to get a piece of the pie as well. Now, we know how it is here in America, man. They ain't gonna pay you what you're worth. You know what the scripture says. This is when the unrighteous are in authority, the people shall mourn. And this is what we see. We see the people mourning. All right. Proverbs 11:1, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. And we already know how this thing is, man. Ain't nobody getting paid what they should be getting paid around here. The inflation beats out all of our raises. You got to go and play in the markets and try to do this or that to beat out inflation, unless you're a top CEO. Scripture says, Proverbs 28:8. He that by usury and unjust gain increases his substance, he shall gather it from him for him that will pity the poor, man. And this is, they pay you, they pay you pennies while they raking it in, And so now what we see is Esau against Esau. Esau's pissed off, man. The middle class Edomite is being squeezed out of this economy along with everybody else. And they want justice, damn it. Okay.
Or their retirees. And that's a big issue with the ILA right now. The issue that was talked about in the video by Daggett is two things. Number one, it's wages. And number two, it's automation, automating the ports. I want to take you over to a document that really shows what is happening here. The potential impact of an international longshoreman strike. We'll have this.
Before we get to that, he said that they want better wages. And then actually the United States, these port workers are fighting back from automation. Why? Because if it's going to remove them from having a job. And so I looked into this and I was like, what is China doing? Check this out. This is really the direction they want to go, which, that's why, definitely all you Akim, go watch Apostle Ramam's video when he talks about fast tracking automation. I was like, that's exactly what they want to do. That's exactly the direction that they want to go, is to take this part and move it into the digital systems. Now, we know that when it comes to merchants and merchandise, okay, that's the key aspect of ruling, is ruling how stuff comes in and out. All right, that drives the world economy and the market. You can control that, you're ahead of the curve. Okay, you can control that. You got this thing running. Hold on, what brother saying over here? Let's see. Brother Pushah put Ecclesiastes 12:4, and the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Kind. You have another part that you. Oh, okay. You go further up. Okay. Yeah, Ecclesiastes 12:3. In that day shall the keepers of the house, the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders shall cease because they are few. Yep. And those that look out the window be dark. And that's right. And that's what automation is gonna do, man. But this strike is a part of that. Okay. So we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see what happens. With the GMS North Carolina put Proverbs 28:15, as a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. And that's what we have. That's why these people are going on strike. That's why these people are upset. Good. Now check this out, though.
It's 60 kilometers away from downtown. This is the smartest port in the world. It's located 60 kilometers away from downtown Tianjin, a coastal metropolis southeast of Beijing. China operates more than 34 major ports and 2,000 minor ports across the country. But there's something unusual about this port. On the surface, it looks like any other shipping harbor, filled with cranes and containers. But here's the catch. It's very rare to find employees working on the ground. Instead, this terminal is fully automated using 5G, cloud computing, AI, and robots to operate the entire.
Now, this is what they want to bring to all the ports around the world. Okay, China has the blueprint model for the path to the MOTB. And this is why we tell y'all, they try to make it seem like these different political groups or countries are squabbling. It's two sides of the same coin. They're all moving towards this
workflow. This is Terminal C of the Tianjin port, and this is the story of how China built the world's first smart, zero-carbon shipping terminal. China is the manufacturing hub of the world, with over 70% of countries now counting China as its top trading partner. But 3 years of zero COVID has disrupted supply chains and led to a labor shortage in the port industry. But China has a plan to turn things around. According to this article from Bloomberg, China is investing in future technologies like robots and AI to reduce labor needs, improve safety, and create a more sustainable port operation.
Yeah, because what if we have another pandemic where the robots and machines won't get sick, so we won't have to worry about shipping and supplies being stopped? This is what they're going to say. This is what they're saying. This is going to be a more efficient, convenient world that won't shut down because of something like a pandemic. Okay.
That will become a model for the world to follow. Yang Jieming, the vice president of the Tianjin Port Group, stated, all ports globally should move toward being more intelligent, eco-friendly, and efficient. So how did China do it? Well, it starts with an investment in technology. Huawei is one of China's leading tech companies, but has come under intense pressure from US sanctions in recent years. But despite these sanctions, Huawei is pivoting to new industries, and this project in Tianjin has become a new priority for Huawei, who is now seeking to tap into a global smart port market expected to reach $11.5 billion by 2030. Let's first explain why smart ports are needed. This Bloomberg article from last month shows one of the biggest problems currently facing the industry. Labor disruptions at world ports quadruple as
See that labor disruptions? Okay. So they can use this saying, man, because of protests and because of this or that, man, we got to automate this thing so the people can get their food. Because we love you.
Tent grows. Finding reliable workers is a problem for seemingly every industry after COVID. Shipping hubs from Europe to Asia experienced major staffing problems as unions battled growing inflation and stagnant wages. Even the US was not exempt from these problems. When the worst of the pandemic hit, several California ports started operating 24/7, but it still didn't solve the problem because there simply wasn't enough workers. Let's take a closer look at the port in Tianjin. Currently, the port operates a fleet of 76 fully automated driverless vehicles. If the port operated 24/7, each truck would require 3 shifts and 3 drivers, resulting in a workforce of at least 228 drivers alone. At traditional ports, all equipment in every vehicle require a driver, but the Tianjin port has been operated since October 2021 without a single driver. This has saved the port millions in labor costs, but also provides other huge benefits. In doing my research for today's video, I was shocked to learn that most ports around the world still rely on manual scheduling. This requires hours of manual planning instead of having an AI computer plan out the entire operation in just a few minutes. And here's a stat that will absolutely blow your mind. With Huawei's intelligent planning, the capacity of a single vessel is shortened from 20 hours of manual planning to 10 minutes of intelligent planning. When you consider that Tianjin port processes more than 21 million cargo containers a year, ranking it within the top 10 busiest ports in the world, it's easy to see how much time and money this port is saving by operating as a smart port.
And so this is the direction that they want to go, and that's the justification for it, man. You know, and so now they're going to blast this in the media as a big deal, scare everybody into thinking they're not going to be able to have any food, scare everybody into thinking that food prices are going to go through the roof. And this will be a solution. This will be a solution, problem, a reaction solution. Okay, check this.
ZPMC is the world's largest port machinery heavy-duty equipment manufacturer and system integrator. In the past 20 years, we have been providing services for over 300 ports in more than 100 countries. Like many other industries, reducing costs and improving efficiency are the main driving forces behind the digital transformation of ports.
Y'all really think this is what's going to rule the next world? Do you really think that this is going to rule the next world? No, absolutely not. Woe unto you, Babylon and Asia. No, absolutely not.
The issue of high labor costs is especially important for traditional ports. The cost of labor makes up a very high proportion of the total operation cost at a traditional port.
Container cranes and horizontal transport vehicles at traditional ports must be manipulated by on-site drivers. A typical example is that workers driving large container cranes, such as key cranes, RMG cranes, and RTG cranes, must work at a great height. Most workers develop occupational illness due to poor workplace conditions. As a result, traditional ports still find it hard to recruit employees, even though the labor insurance policy and salary offered are high, which increases costs. With this in mind, port enterprises urgently need to transform traditional ports that rely heavily on manual operations to automated ports. This means replacing on-site manual operations with remote control or automatic control assisted by remote manual intervention. Drivers no longer need to work at a great height. Instead, they can work remotely from control centers and operate cranes in comfort. For highly automated cranes, such as RTG and RMG cranes, one operator can manipulate several cranes simultaneously. This way of working dramatically improves workplace conditions, reducing the labor costs of ports and making recruitment easy.
The communication system.
See, and so yeah, you know, so now as we look into this situation going on with the ports over on the East Coast. Now what they got going on kind of comes into play. It's like, I see they want to play these games, right? Brother Zakar Tazayawan put Ezekiel 5:16. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. Yeah, and this is it's going down. GMS chosen vessel, Isaiah 19:15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, bush or branch may do. It's a part of it, man. Spiritual Arc 144 put 2 Corinthians 2:11. At least Satan should get advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. That's right, man. So we see all of this, and it's all playing into the MOTV mission that they want to complete, that they want to push forward. So we're watching it.
It's available for you to take a look at in full detail. You can break it apart, but I want to highlight just a couple of issues that they make here. This is a look at the imports and exports in terms of value on the East and Gulf Coast of the US. At the bottom, you see the value in billions of dollars, and then the colors, the percentage, is how much of that comes in through the East Coast. So for example, in terms of imports, if you look at the top ones, we're looking at pig iron, alloy steel, natural rubber, iron ore, tin, cocoa beans, ferrous products, and a whole batch of chemicals coming in. But overwhelmingly, you're talking about over 90% of those are coming in. If you look at the exports going out, fuels, mineral oil, machinery, mechanical, electrical machinery, vehicles, aircraft, opticals, photographic, pharmaceuticals, plastics, all of these are large percentages going out, except for aircraft, which is about 18%, optical 16%. But a lot of this is coming out of the East Coast, Gulf Coast ports. This is what we're going to see. Notice what you don't see here are things like food and other commodities, even though you're going to hear about bananas and a lot of other commodities. So one of the big fears that this is going to do is force shipments to come into the United States via other methods, either by Europe routing through the Panama Canal and coming to the West Coast, or potentially coming into Canadian and Mexican ports and coming in on rail. Now, not every port has an ILA presence along the East and Gulf Coast, but it's going to be very difficult to get ships in and out of ports in the U.S. East Coast unless they can make it to all the required ports. This chart gives you the top 10 ports as determined by ILA presence with the total imports and exports. So, for example, when you're looking at New York, New Jersey, you're looking at imports of somewhere in the range of $232 billion, and that's 7.5% of U.S. value of petroleum. In terms of exports, it's vehicles. In Houston, it's petroleum. In New Orleans, it's returned exports and aircraft. Savannah, vehicle parts and vehicles. And you can just see there the amount of goods that are coming in.
Yeah. So, we have something that's called just-in-time shipping, to where pretty much everything is scheduled for parts to arrive at the plant or manufacturer at a particular date and time, right when you need the part or equipment. So if the supply chain and everything like that gets thrown off, it can really mess up multiple industries and make prices go up.
And out of U.S. ports. And to give you a snapshot of just a single port, this is the top 15 impacted sectors in the Hampton Roads, Virginia ports. They spelled Hampton wrong. I did notice that in this. But you're looking at output in millions, machinery, primary metals, chemicals, manufacturing, electrical material, real estate being largely goods for building homes, wholesale trade, plastics, rubber, you name it. This is a absolute plethora of material coming out. And what Daggett is really focusing on here is that he is willing to walk out with the ILA. I want to go back to Harold Daggett and talk about one last statement he gives. That statement I gave you in the beginning was the end of it, but I want to give you his full statement here.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions, and they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men, because when they made their most money was during COVID, when my men had to go to work on those piers every single day, when everybody stayed home and went to work. Not my men. They died out there with the virus. We all got sick with the virus. We kept them going. From Canada to Maine to Texas.
See, and this is this is what's justifying their argument to push forward with automation. It's like we wouldn't have to worry about you dying and everything like that if we would automate the ports.
Great Lakes, Puerto Rico, now the Bahamas, everybody went to work during COVID. Nobody stayed home. Well, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, no, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is. When my men hit the streets from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. In today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea.
Now he's got a little power, so he's a little proud, you know. You know, he's a little proud, but hey, he seems like he's serious. And so if this goes down, what you'll have is, like he's saying, is chaos, absolute chaos and mayhem, and people are starting to get pissed off with the United States government, right? And seeing these big wigs get paid millions and billions of dollars while everybody else just makes a little bit of money, you know. It's causing the people to be upset, you know. I want to say thank you. That's right. Yep, that's right. You know, he said everything comes. He said everything comes by ships. That backs up Revelation about merchants and ships. That's right. What's that? Revelation 18th chapter. You know, the brothers just posted it. Revelation 18:19. It says, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein there was made rich all that had ships by the sea by reason of her costly. Let me get the rest of it. No, he's trying to copy and paste it. Let me see. Right. By reason of her costliness, it says, for in 1 hour she was made desolate. Yep. So when America goes down, bro, all these different economies are going to be crap. They're going to be destroyed. All right. Everybody's going to be pretty much put out of business. You know, let's see. Hold on. Let's get. Right. Right. Ezekiel 27, and I'll start here at 31. It says, and they shall make themselves utterly bald for thee, and gird them with sackcloth, and they shall weep for thee with bitterness of heart and bitter wailing. And in their wailing, they shall take up a lamentation for thee and lament over thee, saying, what city is like Tyrus, like the destroyed in the midst of the sea? When thy wares went forth out of the seas, thou fillest many people. Thou didst enrich the kings of the earth with the multitude of thy riches and of thy merchandise. In the time when thou shalt be broken by the seas and in the depths of the waters, thy merchandise and all thy company in the midst of these shall fall. Okay, and this is what we're going to see when this place goes down. All right, this is what we're going to see. people get a little taste of when they shut down this port, if they shut down this port. But when this thing really pops off, all the world economy is going to shut down. Verse 34 says, "In the time when thou shall be broken by the seas, in the depths of the waters, thy merchandise and all thy company in the midst of thee shall fall. All the inhabitants of the isles will be astonished at thee, and their kings shall be so afraid, they shall be troubled at their countenance. Thy merchants among thy people shall hiss at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, never shall be any more." Hmm? Is there any more on this? Let me see.
What that means. Nobody does.
Okay. I think he's serious. I don't know about everybody else, but that gives me the impression of someone who's serious about going on strike. Now, I want to flip it for just a second here. ILA is not at the table with the U.S. Maritime Alliance. I would get more credence to the ILA here if they were sitting down negotiating, but they're not. They walked away from the table because, let's be clear, they don't feel like the U.S. Maritime Alliance is giving them what they want. Both sides need to sit down. There needs to be a sit down. They need to be at the table together. However, I think it's Friday afternoon now. This strike hits Monday evening into Tuesday morning on October 1st. I think even if they sit down, they're not going to be able to hammer out a deal here. And I don't think that Daggett and the ILA are going to do a deal like they did on the West Coast with the ILW and the PMA, where they continue working past the deadline without a contract. I would almost bet you that they watched and studied what happened on the West Coast and other union negotiations, the UAW, what had happened with the Teamster.
Boom. You brothers can go read the rest of that. I mean, listen to the rest of that. What's going on with shipping? Okay. Yeah, he just posted this a couple of days ago. But yeah, man, it's just like the apostle said. This really is just lining everything up for automation at all the ports, upgrading everything. So and maybe they allow for a strike to go on for the people to kind of be squeezed into accepting automating the ports. We'll see, because things have been moving very, very quickly in 2024, man. So this ain't like the other times, man. It seems like things is getting turned up. Okay. But that's really all I wanted to say on that, man. I'm not gonna keep you too long. The Water Akian for posting scriptures. Those of you who are new, make sure you're taking notes on from the chat and adding it to your arsenal. With that being said, I want to say call hello. Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to Yakim out there pushing the word of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, sincerity and truth, man. Shalom, man. The water.